Okay, let's step back and look at how inspection quality, consistency are maintained overall. So how does Ofsted ensure consistency between different inspectors and regions?
Okay, that's a really great question, and that is something that we've made a commitment to as part of our Chief Inspector, Sir Martin Oliver's big listen, in terms of, because that's something we heard there, that, you know, inconsistency. And we've got a range of processes in place so that we can make sure that the quality and consistency of our inspection work is right. And our inspectors are following the policy around. We know no two childminders are the same, are they? So no two inspections are going to be the same. But what should be consistent is that application of the methodology, the use of the early years toolkit through the inspection process.
Okay, and so what happens to feedback or themes arising from inspections, and how is the learning fed back into inspector training?
Okay, so that's a good question as well, because one of the things building up to this renewed framework, we took a bit of a pause, and our inspectors had intensive training so that they could feel ready, confident in the renewed approach. So there was many hours of training for our inspectors. So that's one thing. And then there is this kind of like cycle that we go through, so that we take the learning from the post-inspection survey, for example, or from some round tables that we might hold on with providers, childminders, learning from any complaints that we have. All of that information feeds into that process so that we can keep an eye on how things are going on the ground, which is really important. And then that feeds into future training for our inspectors. And it might also mean that we make some updates because there needs further clarity about particular things where there's misconceptions potentially. And it's also that kind of sector engagement that we do as well. So being out and about and hearing from childminders providers on the ground at particular, speaking events, for example, but it's also our stakeholder engagement. I'm just thinking about some of the, the work that we did, building to the renewed framework and some of those conversations that we were having along the way to make sure that actually this toolkit would work, as well as through our piloting, of course, but would work for childminders.
And I think ongoing from that as well, kind of ourselves having the opportunity, I know we're going to do soon, to speak to inspectors about childminders, about their businesses, the nuance of their business and the things that matter to childminders, just to keep that kind of dialogue going and open, and to be able to address inspectors from our perspective as well is really helpful.
Yes.
You mentioned quality assurance. What role does quality assurance and moderation play in maintaining fairness of inspections?
Well, it's a big role, because that's part of our work, and it's embedded into everything that we do at Ofsted. So our quality assurance processes are fair, they're robust, and as we've said, where we do find things that need to change, we will change and we will learn from that.
And can you give any examples of changes that have been made as a result of sector feedback?
I think one of the examples, probably going back to when we sort of put the renewed framework in place, is actually giving the dates of the inspection for childminders, actually agreeing that with them, because I know that was something that was quite challenging sometimes, because childminders are busy, as you know, and they have different groups and things they want to go to, and actually sometimes they were really worried about that, and actually not being able to sort of get on with their day and perhaps sort of hanging around thinking, are we coming? So actually that we listened to that and we took account of that, and actually we found the feedback really positive about that. So that's one example.
I think that has made a huge difference, because you're not saying so far in advance that a childminder's got spending all this time worrying, but you are giving enough notice that it's just not, a panic. And
and I think as well there's that opportunity there, isn't there? Because we want to see what it's like to be a child here every day, and actually deciding the best day for when, particular children might be there, because we know there's that focus on inclusion, for example. So making sure that we go on the day where we are going to see what it's like typically to be with this childminder.
Yeah. You want the childminder at their best, on their best day, with all the children that they kind of look after, and
and thinking about the impact, thinking about the impact of what that childminder, is having for those particular children. Yeah. What difference